was part of the DNC's first all-virtual roll call last night.
I proudly cast South Carolina's 64 votes as follows: 15 for Bernie Sanders and 49 for our next president of the United States, Joe Biden.
And he's also trying to unseat longtime Republican Senator and Trump ally Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Lately, polls have shown it is a tight race in this deep red state. Joining us now, Jaime Harrison. Thanks so much for your time, Jaime.
Thanks so much for having me.
So first off, let's look ahead to night 3 of the DNC convention. What does it mean to you to see the first black woman accept a major party's nomination for VP tonight? And also, how important was it for Joe Biden to pick a black woman running mate?
Well, you know, I'm so proud of Kamala Harris. She's a friend, and she's a strong, smart, very powerful African-American woman. And it means so much to me personally, but it also means a lot to our community, particularly here in South Carolina. You know, when she was running for president, there were a lot of folks here that were really pushing and pulling for her. And, you know, it's just a tremendous thing. And I think a lot of folks are very appreciative of the vice president for selecting her as his nominee and running mate.
A Democratic presidential ticket has not won in South Carolina since Jimmy Carter. The seat that you're running for has been in Republican hands for nearly 60 years, and you're facing an incumbent with deep ties both in Washington and also South Carolina. How do you personally convince voters who've supported Lindsey Graham for years now's the time to change course?
You know, one of the first old adages that I learned in politics was the one uttered by Tip O'Neill, which is all politics are local. And listen, in the end of the day, it's about making sure that you as a representative, as a public servant, are actually serving the public, that you are addressing the issues that people care about on a day-to-day basis. And Lindsey Graham has been a missing in action senator. This is a guy who hasn't done an in-person town hall in almost 3 years. But you can find him on Sean Hannity on Fox News every other night at 9 o'clock. And so the people here in South Carolina understand that. They see it and they feel it. We have a senator we're in a state where we have almost 700,000 people who have filed for unemployment. And it was our senator who held up the CARES Act initially and then said, over our dead bodies will we allow an extension of the federal benefit, a $600 benefit to those who are unemployed. That was bringing $120 million into the South Carolina economy every week. And right now, we're on the verge of schools opening back up, parents wondering how they're going to get school supplies and things for their kids, still wondering how they're going to pay the rent or the mortgage. Our senator is now on vacation instead of going and doing the things that are needed in order to address the needs of the people here in South Carolina. And that's why I am in this race. That is why this race is so close, because people are fed up with the politics, the Washington, D.C. political games that Lindsey's playing, and they're ready for somebody that's going to roll up their sleeves and focus on them.
I'm told that on your desk you keep a quote from Ben Pitchfork Tillman, a former South Carolina governor who led a white gang that murdered 6 innocent African Americans. In 1876, Tillman said on the state's effort to disenfranchise voters, "We have scratched our heads to find out how we could eliminate the last one of them. We stuffed ballot boxes. We shot them. We are not ashamed." All these years later, are you confident that there won't be a number of hurdles for South Carolina voters trying to cast their ballots this fall? And what's your campaign doing to try to boost engagement and turnout among black voters?
Well, you know, it's really, really important. And, you know, going into this campaign, it was important for me to understand the history of the seat that I was vying for. And I understand the history of South Carolina, a state that I love so dearly. And so we are going eyes wide open. We are being proactive to make sure that every person in this state that is duly eligible to vote gets an opportunity to do so, even if they're not voting for me, because I believe fundamentally that the greatest right that we have as American citizens is our right to vote. And nobody should stand in the way of anybody exercising that right. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. Nobody has that power. And so we're working with our Fair Fight, and we're working with our state party, the DNC and other entities, to make sure that we have attorneys on the ground in every county in South Carolina to protect the right to vote for all folks. As I've said from the start of this campaign, this is about closing the chapter on the Old South and starting a whole brand new book called A New South, a New South that is bold, that is inclusive and diverse, and where everybody has a role to play and everybody has value.
Last month, you penned an op-ed on BET.com with two other black Senate candidates, and in it you said representation matters, and for its entire history, the U.S. Senate has failed to represent the racial diversity of our nation. Out of the roughly 2,000 men and women who have served in the Senate, only 10 have been black. Considering this country's racial reckoning, are you of the belief that that'll change soon?
I do, because we're going to win this race. And won't it be ironic that South Carolina, the first state that actually succeeded from the Union in the Civil War, and in a seat that was occupied by John C. Calhoun, a seat occupied by Ben Tillman, and a seat occupied by Strom Thurmond, you're going to get an African-American senator. And South Carolina will become the very first state where two African-American senators serving at the very same time, one Democrat and one Republican.
You've described South Carolina Representative Jim Clyburn as your political father, and many would say that Clyburn's endorsement single-handedly saved Joe Biden's campaign back in February. What's the most important piece of advice that he's given you, and how will you prepare, how will you use that to prepare to serve if you get elected?
Well, Congressman Clyburn and Dr. Emily Clyburn, his late wife, and I was so honored to mention her last night when I gave the presentation, because they've been tremendous forces in my life. One of the things he told me when I was a staffer in his office, he said, Jamie, on the Hill, in Capitol Hill, there are members of Congress that are show horses and they're workhorses. He said, you always want to be a workhorse. And that's my aim. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and work my behind off for the people of South Carolina, because they deserve it. They need somebody that's going to focus and fight for them.
Jaime Harrison, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.